All right.
They sent me back to Fort Riley, Kansas, because I couldn't do the language course in Monterey, California.
Oh.
So what they did, you haven't been to Kansas, it's like Dorothy says, it's the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I know. I've been through there.
You've been through there.
Yeah.
So, you know, so they sent us to the North 40.
Right.
And they were turning, there was no barracks or anything on it because it was nothing but a training area. They used to take the tanks to and everything on there.
Mm-hmm.
But they were turning into a mobile training team trainers. That whole compound. So they had mobile homes instead of barracks. Then they had some of the large buildings over there they were using to train not only male, female, Air Force, Navy, Army as trainers they were going to send to Iraq and Afghanistan to train up people in logistics, agriculture, special forces, regular Army, and everything on their skills.
Right.
So they kept me there for a training course, and they brought in actually Iraqi and Afghanistan nationals to teach us the language courses and everything that we had to go through there. And they did some different other trainings and everything on weapon systems and new equipment. If it was new and we needed it, we got it.
Right.
You know, I mean, I told them, hey, you know, you could get rid of this M16A2 and give me an M4 Bushmaster. Hey, you want an H&K 416? I said, sure. He said, you don't want a 92F Beretta? I said, no, I had a Beretta before. He said, you want a Glock 45? I said, 23? Yeah. Yeah, here you go. What else you need? I said, I would like some of those gloves with the, you know, with the plastic coating on it, the Kevlar. So, you know, you're in the cold and stuff. You're able to move your hands, but if you got to put your hands on somebody, well, sure, what size you need? And I was like, you name it, I got it. They were good to me. And they gave me a sniper rifle too, you know. So I was happy with it, but I knew what the hell I was going to go do. And went over there and started training those guys and, you know, in combat operations. And like he said, we graduated hundreds, you know, thousands out of the academy, you know, when I was there. But, you know, like I told you, the farmers could shoot and the herdsmen could shoot. But a lot of them weren't there for the right intentions. Right. You know, and of course they graduated and they got their money and they ran off, you know. And then, you know, when the battles came down to it, a lot of them disappeared. So, you know, if you graduated 1,000, you were lucky to have, you know, less than 300 still around.
Really? Those were the civilians?
Yeah. They're recruiting.
In what country?
That was Afghanistan. Because you know, they had the Afghani officers and everything on there. You know, they were in charge of it, and they rigid stick. You know, it's like, because remember the British were there, so they were rigid. They knew they were in charge. But the soldiers, they're the ones that recruited them and stuff, and helped them train not just the officers, trying to make the senior enlisted there, those who were in the army, who they chose to make leadership, to teach the courses, teach them, take control, take ownership for what you had. And we tried our best.
Okay. So after that tour, what did you do? Where did you wind up?
When we went through Iraq, we went all the way up north to Mosul. If you look at the map that I've read.
How many months were you there training?
That was less than a year.
Okay.
That was less than a year.
So now you're going to go north?
Now I'm going east.
Oh.
To Iraq, southeast.
Okay.
Southeast to Iraq. I came back. First ID said, "Hey, you got orders again." I said, "Go on." I said, the sand wasn't even cleaned out of my boots. You know, but the good thing, they changed my uniform. You know, I got a different uniform. Right. You know, the ACU. So went over to Iraq, and instead of having the training in Fort Riley, they sent us to I forget the name of the city. It was southwest of Baghdad. It was an Iraqi base, but they had a small contingent of U.S. military there. bringing in the trainers and everything on there. And the thing was funny at that time. It was we were there sitting in the hall. There was Marines that were going down to Nazareth. Yeah.
Right.
And they came in, and the funny thing, it was a large contingent of Puerto Rican medics in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So, they were all hanging out. They can find stuff. I don't care what country you're at. Some guys had some. There's this. They got some green bananas and stuff, and they were frying them. I was happy. I was happy with the banana,
Gotcha.
But they were there, and then we're sitting in the big hall. We call the room to attention. General Petraeus comes in, and he comes into the room, and anybody got any questions? And then the sergeant major looked over at us and says, I'm like, oh, jeez. Knew him from the 82nd, as a master sergeant.
Right.
And he says, Doc, you got any questions? I'm looking around. He says, you, Doc, I popped tall and everything on there. I said, sir, yes, sir. He says, you're talking all about Central Baghdad, what's going on in Mosul. He says, don't you know? I said, sir. He said, you're going back there. You don't need an interpreter. You don't need a medic. You don't need any infantry guy. He said, you go up there and be my eyes and ears and report back. I said, right. He said, you got any questions, you ask them yourself. Yes, sir. And I put my ass back down on the ground. And then I remember he said, hey, anybody that's since 9/11 been overseas more than 3 times, come up here and come get a coin. Of course, the Marines there over there, they do like they said on their cruise, not cruise ships. I apologize, don't mean to say that. Delete that from their cruises. They do the ships do the cruises. I think it's 6 or 7 months. They said so. Their tours of duty on the ground were 6 or 7 months. So we were adding up. Oh, I did 3, so that's like 18 months. And unbeknownst to me, that tour was going to be 18 months.
Okay.
One tour, because that was the surge and stuff.
Right.
And then I was sitting down, all the Marines getting in line, some of them got pictures and everything. I was sitting, and then Sergeant Major comes over to me. He says, Doc is out. I said, sir? I said, yes, Sergeant Major. He says, come on, what are you doing? Sit down. So I said, I haven't did 3 tours over here. He's in total, goddammit. Get your ass over there. So I go over there. The general sees me. He says, I really mean it. You're in my eyes and ears up there. He said, I'm sending Sergeant Major up there to see and to evaluate everything. I'm going to send a whole lot of people up your way, so I expect good things. I said, roger that, sir. He says, anything you need? I said, if you can find out when I'm supposed to come over to E8, so you don't have to shit on me so much. I really appreciate it. He says, I let my deputy know, and out from behind him comes General Ordinero. Who you ever seen him? He's about 6'6", almost 300 pounds of solid man.
Yeah.
And he put his hand on my shoulder and I wrapped around. I said, "That's my shooting arm, sir." But that's a lot of that situation. But we left there and went up to Mosul and started a Iraqi Basic Army Academy.
Right.
Again, we got some stuff and everything on there, getting beds and everything for these guys, and again, push the Iraqis in the front to help recruit these members, And I think literacy and corruption, with the money that was, the United States would give them money to the Minister of Defense, Baghdad, and it's supposed to siphon out.
Right.
But everybody took their little piece of it all. And until eventually get down to them, it's usually nothing. And people wanted to join the military because what we did after we invaded, we dissolved the whole Iraqi army. Said, hey, you're disbanded, so we were starting it up again. hopefully people be doing for good. And I think that's where I lost all my hair. I had it was difficult. It was hard to get some enjoyment because not only that, we were taking model patrols, and unfortunately at that time is when they started the vehicle-borne IEDs.
Yeah.
When we're on patrols, you see the vehicles, coming, the suicide vests,
Right.
were coming out, and then they had the I forgot the name of that IED where it's almost like a shape charge, but you thought the armor on it on the Abrams was pretty good with all the plates and everything on them. It was going straight to that, and, exploding inside. So that's when the up armors started coming up.
On the tank?
And on the tank, yeah. And so it wasn't so good at the time. Even the Americans, we had some casualties, but the Iraqis took thousands more than we did.
Thousands more what?
Casualties.
Casualties? Uh-huh.
Absolutely, than we did. Met some great people. Met some great people.
Friends?
Yeah.
Still friends today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The medics. And, even on the Iraqi side,
Right.
like those Kurdish people from the up north that, you probably remember the story that Saddam Hussein actually used chemical warfare on them.
Yeah.
And so they said, hey, we're Kurdistan. We're no longer Iraq and stuff on there. And they was just, we were invited to their country to go see them, and they were just so gracious.
Mm-hmm.
So gracious. They were just, even at a time of war, it was just amazing how you could have peace. But we tried our best. We tried our best. And I was way out from Baghdad.
Yeah.
But like the general said, he brought people up there to see, what good we're making, what we tried to do for them.
So when exactly was it that you got injured? I'm serious.
During that time.
Oh, okay. What happened?
We were going through a house, opened the door, and the doors there are very flimsy,
Right.
And the door opened. I was supposed to check left. I was number 2 man. Number 1 man, when you hit the door, he goes right. I was going left. And at that time, we had the body armor, but it had a big hole underneath the armpits.
Uh-huh.
So what we call chicken wing. Put your elbows up.
Right.
Guy hit me point blank from between the door. I turned, put my elbow down, took him out, looked around, and then I was out.
Okay. So they took you where?
Took me to a combat support hospital, did surgery there, took me to Longstool, said I was fine, brought my ass back in 7 weeks.
So how much longer was the tour after that?
2 months.
2 months? And from there, when that tour was over?
Came on back
To
Fort Riley,
in Kansas?
Kansas.
Uh-huh.
Kansas.
All right. And
Another training team,
yeah.
back to Afghanistan.
Okay, and how long did that tour last?
That was a year.
All right, but you got through that in one piece, obviously.
Absolutely.
Okay. No more injuries? Okay. But you saw more casualties, I'm sure.
Saw more casualties. That's when it was hot.
And then how long did you stay there this time?
That was, it was almost 15 months, that one.
Okay. We're getting close to getting out of the service now, aren't we?
That's my last tour.
That was it?
And then, since I was hurt, they sent me to the Tampa VA.
Right.
to be evaluated, spinal cord injury and everything on there.
Yeah.
And then there was the Army always has an annual medic conference down in Fort Sam Houston, Texas,
Right.
San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
You know, the hierarchy, the Surgeon General, people all over comment.
Right.
There was a retired sergeant major there, Doc Gonzalez. I said, yes, sir. He says, got a great position for you. I said,
I've heard that before.
I can't say that's exactly. Well, and then some other people came.
Yeah.
He said, it would be in Florida, and you'd be closer to your home, your family you have over here.
Right.
I says, how long is it? I said, I want to do it for 2 years. You to do it for 2 years. If I say no, he says, they would be upset, specifically him. So I was like, he said, that was day number 1 of the conference. It was 5 days. On day 3, I was sitting in front of some very high-ranking people.
Right.
Very, very high. Say, hey, we have this I want you to do. He says, we will take care of you. And if you have to, clean house. And I said, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And so he sent me to I had orders in weeks.
Right.
To the Tampa VA as a military liaison from the VA through DOD Army.
Right.
For the wounded warriors.
Okay.
And so I went there, and things weren't up to my standard.
Right.
Which is pretty high, as you can see. And all the wounded, because they would get wounded in Afghanistan, Iraq at the time, and go for their launch stool, Walter Reed, and then there's 4 VA polytrauma centers. I don't know, all over the United States, and they went there because there was no larger rehab centers than these centers. So they sent me up to Tampa VA to work with the VA to maintain the highest standard of care to get these men and women of just the Army that was taken care of, because there was liaisons for the Navy, Marine Corps, and there was one from the Air Force, but there were very few Air Force injured. But
Right.
and so went there to do that, and did some cleaning house, and still talk to some of those soldiers to this day. And then while I was there, they said they were going to do a medical review board on me. Some of my injuries and ailments and illnesses that I had. And they said they were going to separate me from the service. That was my last tour.
Okay.
And so the chief of staff invited me over to Medill Air Force Base, and he said, hey, so you need to go to the conference center. They're having a group of wounded warriors' families over there. The general and the admiral want you there to answer questions.
Right.
So, moving, sir. Went to the conference room. You know, it was in the afternoon, like about 2 o'clock or so.
Right.
I had to be there by 2 o'clock. Remember, I was moving. I love Mustangs. So I got there. There's all kinds of vehicles and everything on there. So, you know, parked and ran in there. You know, opens the conference room doors. You know, real quick, there's lit. You know, I peeked in there and boom, lights came on. And They're all my soldiers that I had before they were wounded. And these are gentlemen that, I ain't gonna say their names, but one of them's a chief, special forces, that took a bullet for his commander. And he's paralyzed from the neck down. This man says, I would do it again if I had to. And he can't breathe. And his wife and his son are there, and pretty family. I got another gentleman that I pulled from a pool of dead bodies, checked to see if he has a pulse.
Right.
And he did. Faint one. He's a vegetable. He can move a little bit, his eyes and stuff. His wife loves on him. Son loves on him, and he'll move his eyes, or I don't know, it's an uncontrollable smile. He was there in uniform. Chief was there in uniform. All the families in there. Some guy's missing his legs, half his head is gone, you know, and in there, and they're standing at attention for me.
Right.
I don't care about the Legion of Merit, Bronze Star, whatever. That's what caught me. That camaraderie ship, I gave them 110%. I'm not about awards or anything on the recognition. I'm doing this because I was asked to do. But and then the Admiral was there. And Admiral even said, if you want to work for me as a civilian, it would be my honor to have you work. He said, you're not even, he said, you're a Ranger, but you're not Special Forces, you're not allegedly Delta or SEAL Team 6 or anything on there, but I know what you do. And you go above and beyond, you gave 110%. I said, yes, sir, and I would love to have you. Of course, I said no very nicely, because I was coming back here to try to make a difference. And then they said, hey, you got 18 days. Congratulations, you made Sergeant Major. And you'll wear it for a few hours, but you did it. I said, roger that. Anything I ever can do, and I have their numbers, you know, in there. And so I got this prize here, my gift my dad gave me. Something, got diabetes, I have to be on a pump.
Oh, okay.
Next step after this, I still run less than 7 minutes subpar miles. Run every day. I ran here before I came here.
Oh, okay.
So I went up to
Where? Fort Stewart?
yeah,
Go ahead.
because that was a higher command, you know, for the warrior transition units.
Yeah.
Saw them up there, you know. I mean, when I was at Tampa, you name it came through. President came through. Obama came through.
Okay.
Biden stopped by. Bill Nelson, Senator Bill Nelson, Rubio stopped by. Department of Defense, Secretary, all these people stop by. I see them all the time, and you know, so if you ever need anything, you know, here's our numbers, you know. And I never did it for me. You went to see the troops, you know. One mother was so emphatically, you know, angry at the military, but she says, "Where's Miguel?" I said, "Who's Miguel?" He says, "The first one." He says, "I'm here." She says, "I want nobody to come in my room. My son's missing his legs, half his head. Look, his hands were so burnt he couldn't move them out." She says, "Vice President coming? I want him in the room." I said, "I'm not going to talk to the Vice President without him in the room." But one thing, and I still, in fact, keep to this day, Army values is that loyalty, integrity. What is a man's worth if he doesn't have his word? And here, even to this day, they know my standard is very high, is I keep my word. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And that's my story.
All right. Well, I want to thank you for your service. Thank you for the interview. Thanks for the time. that you're taking to give me this interview.
Pleasure.
Okay?
Yes, sir.